Charity Trustees Subcommittee. The meeting here today is open to the public. However, there are documents which will not be available to the press or public. For items 11 and 14, the appendices to the report are not available to the public or press because they contain exempt information relating to financial and business affairs. If members wish to discuss the information in the appendix, we will need to ask members of the public and press to kindly leave for that part of the meeting, and we will pause the webcast. Ideally, we can hopefully get through that without having to do that. We've received one set of public questions relating to the remit of the committee, the answers which have been published on the Council's website. We've also received a supplementary question and an agenda-related question from the Friends of Graves Park, who will be here today to read them. Please could I request that mobile telephones and other such equipment are switched to silent mode as to not to disturb the conduct of the meeting. As usual, there is no fire test planned for today. If there is an emergency evacuation, please take instruction from the Town Hall staff. The assembly point is Tudor Square. At this stage, for the benefit of the webcast, please can each Charity Trustees Subcommittee member introduce themselves. I shall start with myself. I'm Richard Williams and I represent the Stannington Ward.
Fran Belbin, Councillor for Firth Park Ward and Deputy Chair of the committee.
Good afternoon. I'm Mike Chaplin. I'm a Councillor for Southey Ward.
Hello, I'm Christine Gilligan. I'm a Councillor for Hillsborough Ward and I'm standing in for Douglas Johnson.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Councillor Curtis Crossthorne and I am a Councillor for Verbatim Ward.
Thank you, and as we go through the agenda, could I ask officers to introduce themselves before they speak for the first time? Thank you. Item 1 is apologies for absence. We've been preempted. Obviously, Councillor Douglas Johnson apologises, and we have Christine Gilligan to replace him. Thank you. Welcome. Item 2 is exclusion of the press and public, and already advised, exclusion of the press and public may apply to items 11 and 14. Item 3 is declarations of interest. Looking through the agenda, are there any members who wish to declare an interest on any items of the business today? No, I'll take that as a no. Thank you. Then item 4 is the minutes of the Charity Subcommittee meeting held on the 24th of November 2025. I'll go through each page, and if you wish to make a comment, please indicate. Page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15, and the minutes as a whole. If we're happy with those, we'll take those minutes as read. Thank you very much. Item 5 is public questions and petitions. We have one set of supplementary questions and one set of agenda questions. And may I ask Caroline Dewar to come forward and start with the supplementary questions.
So I'm Caroline Dewar, I'm Chair of Friends of Graves Park. The supplementary statement questions we wanted to ask were, the Friends look forward to being able to see the first draft of the public consultation questions by the end of January. Will the Friends be able to have input into the questions on the public consultation and the text provided to the public?
Thank you. Yes, the Friends will be offered the opportunity to comment on the questions for the public consultation. Absolutely.
Excellent. The second question is, will it be possible to have paper copies to hand out to people who don't use the internet, as was done with the public consultation for the Rose Garden Cafe?
Again, absolutely. I think this is an important part of any public consultation, that people who are not necessarily living in the digital world have the opportunity to participate. So yes, paper copies of the consultation will be made available within Graves Park, such as the Rose Garden Cafe and in the Animal Farm. And if there's anywhere else you think, please let us know. Thank you.
Well, we do have a large number of people who visit Chantryland Meadow and Arboretum, and they have already asked how they can make a statement about what might be in the future.
We then have some agenda-related questions. If you'd like to ask those, we'll take them one at a time.
Regarding the Graves Park accounts, item 8, why are the 2 residential properties belonging to Graves Park, the bungalow, which is Cobner or Hill Lodge, and the lodge, which is the 3-bedroom detached house at Charles Ashmore entrance, which was built in the 1960s, I think, as a parkkeeper's house, not properly maintained, and why are they left empty? This is when there is supposed to be a housing shortage. Is the council charging itself double council tax for keeping these properties empty?
Yeah, I mean, these 2 properties have been vacant since the tenants who lived there in these properties undertaking duties in the parks left. The properties have not been relet since then, as the council has been reviewing the way in which lodges are tenanted across the city to ensure the process is fit for purpose. This process has taken longer than we would hope, but it's important, and we will hopefully get to a resolution soon.
Second question, is the charity subcommittee aware that local people are rightly angered by the prolonged and continuous nature of the vacant properties, which are a target for vandalism or worse?
Yes, I think it's fair to say that the subcommittee is aware that some residents are concerned about the length of time properties have been vacant. While incidents of vandalism have fortunately been minimal, we take stewardship and safety seriously. The properties are being secured and monitored, and enabling works have begun on one of the properties with the intention of bringing it back into use with on-site duties that support the park. We encourage anyone with concerns to contact us or report issues directly so we can act promptly.
The next one, which I think you've covered, but is the charity subcommittee aware that these properties are all supposed to be protected from sale or disposal by the covenants which protect Graves Park as a charity?
Okay. All the land and buildings within the boundaries of Graves Park are held by the Sheffield City Council as trustee of Graves Park. The Graves Park Charitable Trust, and the Sheffield City Council is obliged to observe the provisions of the Charity Commission scheme, together with the provisions of the Charities Act 2011 and the Trust of Land and Trustees Act of 1996, and the guidance as published by the Charity Commission. There is no express prohibition on sale or other disposables contained in the scheme, as ruled upon by Mark Anderson QC in the High Court. The various conveyances of part of Graves Park to which Mr. Graves was party to do not contain any similar restrictions or disposals. Sheffield City Council is committed to the use and maintenance of the land forming Graves Park as a public park and recreation ground under the terms of the Charitable Trust, but remain unable to give an undertaking, as previously requested by Friends of Graves Park in the High Court case referred to above, never to sell or otherwise dispose of any part of Graves Park for the reasons set out in the Mark Anderson QC's judgment thereon. All I'd say to add to that is that we take our responsibility very seriously, and whilst it's never say never, very much it is not our intention to seek to dispose of assets.
Am I allowed to add to that just slightly? You refer to the judgment with Mark Anderson, is it?
Yes.
In that judgment, it stated quite clearly that in the judgment, which was incorrect in our opinion, but it did say that the cottage concerned was outside the boundary wall of the park.
It would be wrong for me to comment on that. I don't have the details.
I just thought I'd say it. Number 4, what steps have been taken to try and rent these properties out with tide duties in the park? I think you've already answered that one, but
Are you happy with the answer I gave you?
I think we've got that one. Number 5, will the Nursery Lodge, which is a residential building in Graves Park and belonging to Graves Park, be listed with the other residential properties in the accounts once the Norton Nurseries section is returned to parkland?
The lodge is already included in the accounts, valued at £220,000 for the building and £110,000 for the land. It can be found as part of the fixed assets balance on the balance sheet, page 11, and in the notes to the accounts, page 20, note 13, which is highlighted as tangible fixed assets, Norton Lane Nurseries. Okay. Thank you for your questions. Item 6 is members' questions, and you've been kind to me again. I've not received any questions from members, so thank you, although they're always welcome. Item 7, work programme. This is on page 19 of the agenda pack. We will go through that now. So I'll hand over to Joanne.
Thank you, Chair. Really, we've just done some tidying up because members highlighted at the last meeting that it wasn't very informative, the state of the work programme as it was then. So we've tried to add further information to it, including descriptions of all the items that are on it. And officers have taken off anything that they've concluded doesn't need a report after all. So that's all to highlight at this stage.
Okay, do the members have any questions? Yes, Fran.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to highlight that I'm pleased to see that there's an item on that isn't yet scheduled on Firth Park allotments and potentially a report advising on the reinstatement position. I think the tenants at Firth Park allotments received their compensation offers yesterday, and it's fair to say that these were miserly, and this has really reduced my confidence, frankly, in Yorkshire Water's commitment to restoring things. So I'm pleased to see that's on the agenda. And I do think we should look very seriously at whether we are going to get those reinstated properly.
Just a quick remark I'd like to make. We did talk about having the consultation on the work programme. Is going forward?
Yeah, do you mean about for the forthcoming municipal year?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll be looking to arrange some dates for those meetings once we're in PERP, when everybody's got a bit of time in the calendars. We'll put dates in for after the AGM, but we'll start thinking about it once we go into PERP.
Okay. On that basis, then, there is a recommendation, which is that the subcommittee's work programme, as set out in Appendix 1, be agreed, including any additions and amendments identified in para 4 of the report and any agreed by members at the meeting. Is that agreed? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Item 8 is the annual accounts signing off. This is for all the various different charities that come under our remit. Just as a point of note, there is an amended set of accounts for Firth Park which were distributed just before lunchtime today. There are some copies here if you want them, but you did all get an email. Who's presenting this? Is this Paul Jeffries and Jane Wilby? And we also, I believe, have Melvin Bailey as the auditor. Is he coming? He's not. I know he's not going to be here, but is he?
Hello? Hello?
Oh, that sounds like Melvin. Yes.
Yeah, I've been listening since 2 o'clock.
Melvin, welcome. Thank you for attending. We can't see you because we have a
Oh, dear.
presentation up and our system isn't that sophisticated. But if you can bear with us, if we have any questions for you, then we will get you on the screen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Jane Wilby, I'm Assistant Director of Finance and Accounting, and today we're presenting the 24-25 charity accounts prepared on behalf of the Council as its role as sole trustee, in line with our obligations under the Charities Act and SORP requirements. So I'd like to begin by recognising the significant work undertaken by the team, Miriam Thomas, Maddie Smith, Janine Scarborough and Paul Jeffries, who have worked extremely hard to bring these sets of accounts together, and thanks to Roger Spencer, with their independent review and audit, with Melvin Bailey joining us remotely today. Paul will shortly provide an accessible overview of each set of accounts, highlighting the key activities from the year. And it is also important to note that we are strengthening our internal processes with continued improvements planned throughout the year for 26-27 to make the preparation more streamlined and visible throughout the year. So with that, I'll hand over to Paul.
Okay, thanks, Jane. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul Jeffries. I'm Senior Finance Manager in Jane's team in the Finance Service. So I'll be taking you through the presentation. You'll have seen the actual sets of accounts, but we thought this is a slightly easier way to go through the key points of the accounts. So the first few slides will be a bit of background and context about charities and the way the accounts have been prepared, and then we'll go into a little bit of detail about each park and pick out some key points as we go through. So the first slide is more just setting the context about charities themselves. So charity is a non-profit entity established for the public benefit, aiming to advance a particular cause or address a specific need. Just to note that charities are obviously regulated by the Charity Commission, as I'm sure you're well aware, and the accounts are prepared in line with the Statement of Recommended Practice for Charities, otherwise known as the SORP. So the specific guidelines that we followed in preparing the financial statements. Next one, please. So this was quite important to set the scene in terms of the level of assurance and the sort of the work that goes into each charity that we're looking at today. If we start from the bottom, you see that smaller charities with those of an income below £25,000, although we still prepare accounts for them, those don't require an audit and they don't require to be submitted to the Charities Commission. We'll come on to the detail in a minute, but there are 6 such charities in Sheffield Council. And the middle box is the majority of the accounts that we're looking at today. So charities with an income over 25,000 must have their accounts independently examined, and they must submit accounts to the Charities Commission. And there are 11 sets of accounts which fall within that bracket. And the top box, so for charities with an income over £250,000, or where the value of the assets exceeds £3.26 million, this requires a full audit examination. And so this year, Hillsborough Park has fallen into that category after following the revaluation of the assets of the park. So just again, to a bit of context, so Melvin is on the line from Roger Spencer, who's been doing the audit. The Hillsborough audit is still ongoing, so that the figures that you've been given are draft accounts at the moment, and we hope to complete that audit in the next week or so, with a view to, if any significant changes occur, we will need to obviously revisit that and talk to legal colleagues in terms of the best way to address that, but hopefully the accounts will finalise at the same value that have been shared with you. Next one, please. Okay, yep. So this slide just shows the sort of the key elements of charity accounts. There are 2 main statements. The first one is the Statement of Financial Activities, otherwise known as the SOFA. This is, I guess, the profit and loss account equivalent for charities, which shows the income and expenditure. So it includes the donation income, charitable activity income, and the associated expenditure, and also depreciation costs go through this statement. The balance sheet is the statement of assets and liabilities. So in these accounts, that's the statement as at the 31st of March 2025, showing all the assets and liabilities for each charity at that point. And both accounts, as it says at the bottom, are split between restricted and unrestricted funds. So if a donation is received with a specific purpose that has to be spent on, that's counted as a restricted fund. Otherwise, general donations and income is treated as unrestricted. So those are split within the two statements. Next one is just briefly mentions fixed asset revaluations. So the fixed assets within each park are subject to a rolling revaluation programme on a 5-year basis. So every asset should be revalued every 5 years. And if those assets if there's a gain or a loss on the revaluation of the assets, those are fed through the statement of financial activities. And that's, as I mentioned earlier, the revaluation of Hillsborough this year has caused that kind of increase in the value of the assets, which has pushed it into the audit category. And finally, just to clarify, so the responsibilities of charity trustees. So for this purpose, Sheffield City Council is the sole trustee of the park's charities. And responsibilities of trustees are to ensure compliance with the charity's purpose, safeguard the assets of the charity, and act in the best interest of the charity overall, and also responsible for proper financial management, such as approving budgets and monitoring financial performance and reviewing financial statements, as we're doing today. Okay. So this slide just shows the list of the accounts that we're looking at today. So, as I mentioned earlier, there are 11 sets of accounts that have been subject to an independent examination. Hillsborough Park was highlighted there as the one which has been subject to the full audit. So you received the accounts when the papers were sent out, and today you'll notice there was one change to the Firth Park accounts. So following the continued examination by Roger Spencer, a small amendment was made to the Firth Park accounts, which have now been sent to you. But happy to say the other accounts which are sent out in draft have remained the same. There hasn't been any changes to those. Not sure it's worth Melvin just making a comment at this point. Can you hear me, Melvin?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah. On each park or each charity, the 11 of them, apart from Hillsborough, we've carried out an independent examination, and now we're just about concluding our work on that. I think we've had some points answered this morning, and we've actually got everything we need now to conclude that each one of them has a clean report. We don't have anything to mention, and we're concurring that the accounts comply with the charity SORP.
Okay, thanks, Melvin. Okay, just moving to the next one. So this is just, as I mentioned before, these are the charities which fall into the lower category, below income less than 25,000. There are 6 charities that we're not presenting today. Accounts have been prepared, and they are available on request, but they're not part of the accounts we're looking at today. So this slide shows the extent of Sheffield City Council's financial support to the charities. So for each park, you can see the amount that the council has contributed towards the running of the charity operations, either revenue grants or capital grants. And for the 24-25 financial year, this amounts to just over 1.5 million of support from the council to the running of the charities. Okay, so I'm now going to just run through very briefly each individual charity, pick out some key points. So first of all, for Norfolk Park, for the 24-25 year, there's net income of nearly £35,000, and that's a £76,000 improvement increase from the previous financial year. Main reasons for that is there's a slight increase in grant funding of about 25,000, and there's a reduction in expenditure compared to the previous year. The previous year expenditure included £65,000 of repair work, which was caused by a crash in the previous year. So obviously that was more of a one-off in the previous year, and this year's expenditure has reduced because of that. A few key highlights of activities in the park. The annual Sheffield Fair was held in August 24. There was Eid celebrations in June 24, schools cross-country events and orienteering. And just to notice, there's continuing support from the Friends of Norfolk Park, which have been obviously very active in helping the park and raising donations. And the cafe also continues to be successful in serving park users. Okay, next one. So Western Park. So you'll note on the numbers that the expenditure equals the income, and there's no net income or expenditure. That's because all the funds at Western Park are deemed as unrestricted. Therefore, all the balance of expenditure over income is covered by the Sheffield City Council grant to actually bring it back to a net zero position. There's been a few small changes in the year. So income from events and weddings has increased by 1,500, and the grant provided by Sheffield City Council was reduced by 11,600. Overall expenditure reduced due to reduced utility costs in the year. Again, a few key highlights of activities. There was the Western Fair in May 2024. Regular weddings have taken place in the grounds and the bandstand. Band concerts take place also in the summer. The park has maintained its green flag status over the year, and there's been additional work in replanting borders and notice board repairs. Okay, next one, thank you. So this is Hillsborough Park. So you can see that the net position is a £58,000 net expenditure for the park. And that's a change from the previous year. So a number of different changes in terms of the net position. So the previous year's incomes was a lot higher because it included a one-off £270,000 library improvement grant. And it also included 106,000 of reimbursement from tram lines following the 2023 damage caused to the park. So the income in the previous year was a lot higher because of a couple of one-offs. So that looks like the income has fallen, but actually the previous year was high because of that. And also, yes, so the highlights in the year, obviously tram lines continued that in July 2024 successfully, and a lot drier this year. Okay, next one, please. So Chelsea Park, or Annie Francis Starring Memorial Foundation, is its full name. One of the smaller parks, so a small net income of £4,000 for the year. Probably not, so that's fairly consistent with the previous years. A slight increase, but financially not a great deal of change. Also some key highlights in the year. So annual party in the park took place. Also continued work with the Friends of Chelsea Park, and some new planting of a new meadow, and continued management of existing perennial meadow in the playground. Thank you. Earl Marshall is the next one. So for the financial year, this has a net income of £24,500. It's a small increase so that's a slight increase on the previous year of nearly £7,000. There's an increase in grant funding, some money which is provided from the Johan Cruyff Foundation towards the football pitches, and just a slight fall in expenditure as well of the year by just over 2,000. So no specific events in Earl Marshall Park during the year, but some plans in place to improve the pavilion and also to add a football pitch in the future, and some repairs to the paths are planned. Thank you. Next one, so City Hall Gardens. So this is the charity so the expenditure is partly on maintaining the small area of gardens near the City Hall, and the rest of the expenditure is a donation to the Spirit of Sheffield Children's Charity Trust. So you can see this year there's a net income of £29,600. The income arises from rent on 8 properties. And as I say, the expenditure is mainly to the Spirit of Sheffield Children's Charity Trust. High Hazels Park. So in the financial year, this has a net income of £80,700. That was a fairly significant increase from the previous year, and the majority of that due to a capital grant that was received in the year for repairs on the park shelter. Some activities in the year. There was the holiday activities with food programme and prayers in May of the year. An increase in dog training classes. Some future plans for further tree planting, and also some relaxed mowing areas to encourage fauna and flora in the park. Richmond Park has a net expenditure in the year of £10,669. So that's a slight change from the previous year. The previous year's figures had some capital grants of £16,000, so that those haven't been received this year. So that's the main reason for the reduction in the financial position overall. So highlights in the year, there was some community-led events with summer sports activities and tree planting and scrub clearance. Endcliffe Park. So for the financial year, this shows a net expenditure of £10,627. That's a reduction of £15,000 from the previous year. There's some additional grants and donations in this year, including some £7,000 from the Friends of Porter Valley, which is a donation for the toad sculpture in the park. Additional income received from some outdoor activities, and then the expenditure also increased just for the purchase of the acquisition of the toad sculpture. Highlights in the year of activities, as I mentioned, the toad sculpture was unveiled in December 24. Also, Friends of Porter Valley continuing to support the park, doing weeding and pruning work. A number of events such as the Porter Valley Duck Race, Fake Festival, Sheffield Round Run, Annual Fun Fair, and also the weekly park run continues at Endcliffe Park. Okay, just a few more to go. So Firth Park has a net spend in the year of just under £48,000. Bit of a change from the previous year. The reduction in the Sheffield Council grant compared to the previous year that has reduced because there was some increase in income from the Cascade Nursery and the Family Hub. And there's also a £22,000 capital grant in the previous year, which hasn't been received this year, so that's also a reduction in that income. Highlights in the year include the Firth Park Summer Fun Day. Sheffield Mela took place in August 24, and there's also the Fun Fair, Firth Park Tree Carving, Eid Prayers, and 50 Things to Do Before You're 5. Sounds like fun. And also some improvements to the Willow Den and litter picks throughout the year. Okay, Graves Park. So there's a net cost of £3,000 during the year. A net income of £3,000 during the year. Income slightly exceeding the expenditure, and that was about 95,000 increase from the previous year. There's been mainly increase in charitable activities income. The animal farm has increased its income by £97,000 over the year compared to the previous year, and also a £52,000 increase in the Rose Garden Cafe income compared to the previous year. Again, some highlights. Another two active friends groups, Friends of Grace Park and Friends of Woodseats Playground, actively working with the park. There was the Grace Park Country Show, Animal Farm holding after dark events such as in Halloween and in Christmas. School groups going to the Animal Farm, and other events such as Race for Life, Fun Fair, cross-country events, pumpkin picking, egg hunt, llama trekking, and goat feeding. Okay, nearly there, the final one. So Glen Howe has, in the financial year, a net income of £61,400. That's an increase from the previous year. And most of the reason for that increase is the receipt of a grant during the year for roof installation and full refurb of the lodge. And final highlights of activities in the year. Again, another good work with the Friends group with regular volunteer days, including the paths and planting and weeding. Planting of daffodils and poppies, 2 new picnic benches installed, and control of Japanese knotweed, and some further tree safety work. That is the final part. So those are the summaries of the accounts. Obviously, you've got the full statements available to you for any further detail, but that's those are the key points. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Do members have any questions?
Thank you. Can I say thank you, first of all, for the way you've presented the accounts this afternoon. It's really, really helpful. I think this document, we've got very, very dense pack of papers here, and this has made them much more accessible. And it's also been really helpful where you've pointed out, as you've gone through, where there are big differences between last year and this year. And I hope that this can be made a bit available to the public as well. I don't think it's currently on the website, is it, with the rest of the papers, but it'd be great. I think that just makes it more accessible to the public as well. And just to thank all the officers who have been involved in maintaining our parks over the year, and all the friends groups as well, who have played such a big role in not only raising funds but in helping to maintain the parks themselves. So it would be remiss not to mention all of those. Just a couple of questions. Jane, you mentioned right at the start about a new approach to doing these over the course of next year that would be more transparent, and I'm interested to hear a little bit more about that and how this committee will engage with that process, and how you'd like us to be involved in it, and perhaps that might help support us as we get to this stage in the year when we're suddenly presented with this big bodge of papers, was the first question. And then the other thing I just wanted to draw attention to, which is probably for Ruth, looking at the Firth Park accounts. I know it's quite recent that we've established that Firth Park community allotments are actually part of the Firth Park charity, and at the moment there's no recognition of that within these accounts, and I would expect to be seeing, you know, the income from the allotments and so on. So currently that's not there, so it'd be good to hear how we plan to address that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments, and yeah, I do appreciate it is a very dense set of accounts, so Paul's done a fantastic job taking you all through that today, so thanks, Paul. Yeah, and I think part of the reason that we've done that is exactly this. The financial statements are very different to management accounts, and the fact that we actually produce them on an annual basis means that it's difficult for us to actually look at the position and the financial performance throughout the year and actually track that on a monthly basis like we would for other services. The way that we run the parks accounts are very intertwined with what we do and how we deliver parks and countryside services in general, and there's a lot of recharging that goes on between those services. It doesn't always happen on a consistent basis and a consistent monthly kind of time schedule, so we're looking at ways of improving those processes to become more formalised in terms of when those recharges are happening, so that we're able to actually pull out what performance looks like on a more monthly basis, or more quarterly is probably more appropriate, to be honest with you. I'm not going to commit to promising to be able to provide full sets of management accounts for each park for next financial year, because actually we've got a huge amount of work to do internally to look at our financial processes in doing that, and some of that's about how our chart of accounts is set up, our systems are set up, and how we're supporting that. But the methodology that we use at the moment for extracting the accounts at the end of the year very much means it's a back-ended process, and all this work happens towards the end of the year, and we're quite pressured at the end of the year to be able to produce them. So Paul's been doing a lot of work with the team to understand how we can start that earlier and actually, you know, bring in more rigour into the process, and thinking about setting up separate divisions so we can pull off reports on a more periodic basis, so we can actually report on that. So there's still a lot of thinking to be done around that, and I think because we are a year behind with the cycle, by the time we've thought about doing that, we're almost into the next set of accounts, because we're almost at the position where we're thinking about closing the 25-26 accounts. So really we want to get some of these processes in place for how we're accounting in 26-27, so when we come to present to you next year, we'll not have anything different to be able to say to you in terms of that monthly visibility, but we are definitely working towards a bit better position for 26-27. And the point that you make about allotments is actually a really valid one, and it's that sort of thing that would flush out if we had the visibility on a more monthly basis, rather than trying to extract lots of information at the year end. It would pull a lot of those kind of issues and bring them to light a lot more easily. So yeah, welcome all your feedback, so hope that helps.
Thank you, that's really helpful. So I think what I'd expect is, I'm not expecting you to bring quarterly reports to all these charitable subcommittee meetings, but I think, as you say, it probably allows us for you to identify more clearly, we may have an issue here or whatever that does need to come to the committee, and that's probably how the committee would engage, if I'm understanding rightly. Thanks.
If you don't mind me coming in as well, one of the things that we also hope to do is be able to talk about things in advance, so talk about things before the year happens, not just when it has happened. And Lisa and I've just had a quick conversation, and the presentation that Paul took everyone through was really, really helpful, and what we will try to do as a minimum is make sure that that's included in the body of the report in future years, because it's really helpful information for the public, exactly as you said. And Jane has already touched on this, but yes, we have only just discovered that the allotments are held within the boundary of the charity, so we will make sure that is reflected in future years with a note saying that it hasn't been reflected previously.
Curtis.
Thank you. Oh, my head hurts. There's a lot in here, and you clearly are an expert on every line. In reading this, I was trying to, I'm not an accountant, so I don't want to go into the technical side of it all, but I was trying to think about how we as trustees of these charities can think about the sustainability of each one of these assets, and events seem to be one of the big income generators for each of the charities. So I suppose my one technical point actually is that almost every charity has income from events, but I think only a few have expenditure on events. So I was wondering kind of what that is. It would be good for us to understand what the profit is on the events and how that works. And then maybe it's something for us to take up in a briefing more, because it would be really good for us as a committee to understand how we can improve on the events and really get these charities sustainable, and play on the fact as well that they are charities with friends groups who love and care for these charities, and get them involved in trying to work on events to generate income to make these sustainable for the future.
I'll pick that one up. Thank you, Councillor Crosthorne. Lisa Firth, Director at Parks, Leisure and Libraries. Events sits within our remit as well. So there are different types of events, and most events will pay the council or pay the park or the charity to host the event in that park. So, and the expenditure, I think we mentioned around tram lines, for instance. Any work that is required in the park as a result of tram lines is paid for by tram lines. Therefore, the cost to the charity is minimal. So you might not see a correlation between the income from events and the expenditure for events, because we don't really want the events to cost the charity anything. There might be some general maintenance. So if you think about Park Run and Encliffe Park, that's not a fee-related event, and maintenance of the park and the footpaths, etc., will be picked up as part of the standard park maintenance. So again, that might be an expenditure where you don't see a correlation with income. So yes, I think, and Ruth might want to correct me here, we've talked about the feasibility of an annual plan or biannual plan or even a 3-year plan for charitable parks, so we can have that look ahead as to what is coming in the park, how can we make that park sustainable, the charity sustainable, what are the objects, and having a really forward look so that we can generate more around, for instance, events, and ensure that it remains sustainable. But that's why you might see some discrepancies between income and expenditure. And in terms of profit, and I know that's not what you meant, but none of them do, because all of them receive a council
Subsidy.
Revenue subsidy to balance the books. So they're all run at a starting point of zero kind of thing, and there's a cost, and then we try and offset that cost by bringing in things such as events and other income.
Before you turn off, it's probably worth me saying that actually across the majority of our sites, actually the events often aren't our biggest earners. the things that generate income, which helps keep the park sustainable, are things like cafes where they exist, ice cream facilities, and actually car parking is a really big one. So yeah, sustainability is a really good point. It does go beyond events. I think it's also probably worth flagging that we're quite fortunate in that a number of our charitable sites are also our city parks. So where you didn't, for example, see events or particularly high levels of income, they are much smaller parks, serving often quite a smaller slice of the community. So we need to work out what is possible on each site, what is the right thing for that site, how do we make that site as sustainable as it can be, because Lisa's absolutely right. Actually, currently, none of our parks within Sheffield are self-sustaining financially. That might change in the next couple of years. We've got one site that we think might tip over into being financially self-sustaining, which would be absolutely incredible.
Yeah, just to add to that, events are the thing that is more scalable. So we can't just build a massive car park and generate more money, and events will grow and create better respect and admiration for our parks as well. So I think it's probably something for us to take away and look at. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? No? Well, I've got a couple of quick questions. Just looking at in your PowerPoint, slide 11, that gave you the overall kind of council contributions. Is it as simplistic as saying that currently the charity parks cost the council £1.5 million in the last year? That's the money that the council puts in to keep those parks functioning. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And the other comment on events, etc. I guess it's always that balance of generating income to make things better, but not to the detriment of the character of the park, and certainly not to the detriment of the people who use the park. So that is an important balance that we need to ensure.
So Hillsborough Park and tram lines, for example, and Ruth's just mentioned a really good example. You know, Hillsborough Park, a big section of Hillsborough Park has to be closed for public access to allow tram lines set up and to happen, which we acknowledge is not ideal, but it allows the event to happen. What we don't want to do is do that on a frequent basis, and we don't want to do that everywhere. So it is absolutely about getting the balance right, and there are some parks where that is possible. Hillsborough is possible because it is so large and you can still access other areas of the park. In Encliffe, for instance, it would be less feasible to do that. So yeah, it's about getting that balance right, but recognising that they are scalable and some parks can sustain larger events better than others. And also there comes a point where the number of days where you hold big events, it becomes a threshold that you don't want to go over because of the negative impact that has on the park and its infrastructure, wildlife, etc., etc. So it is about getting that balance. We think there is more that we can do in some areas, and we'll work with you to develop those plans. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I just think, firstly, could I say thank you very much, to reiterate Fran's points. Thank you for the reports. A tremendous amount of work goes into them. I know a little bit about accounts, but not enough to dig to the very bottom of these things. It's a good task, well done. And I know there's always, when they're signed off, there's always a nice feeling for a couple of days, and then you realise it's got to start again. But I think also it reflects, just looking at their figures, but it does reflect how important these assets are to the city. I mean, we're very fortunate to have such a wonderful breadth of portfolio of parks, and you know, I think we have to do everything to protect them for as long as possible. So thank you very much. We have some recommendations. Just a point of clarity, can we take this all at one, or do we have to go them one at a time?
I think as long as the committee is aware that they are acting as each individual charitable trust, and the trustee, I think you can take them collectively knowing that you are doing them that you are doing that for each one. So that would be fine rather than going through each one individually.
Out of protocol, then I'll ask, are you as a group happy that we take them all as one? And you understand what David has just said? Okay, thank you. That makes it considerably easier. So the recommendations are, firstly, to note the 24-25 Sheffield City Council charity accounts. That's all of them individually. An outcome of the external auditor's work undertaken by Rogers Spencer Limited Chartered Accountants. Secondly, approve, subject to any minor and non-material changes, the 2024-25 charity accounts, again individually, and note that the chair of the charity subcommittee will sign the statement of accounts, trustee report and letter of management representations to include the external auditor's examination when it's ready. Are we happy with that? Okay, that is unanimous. So thank you for that. And thank you, Mervyn, for coming in and making yourself available. I always feel a little bit guilty that you don't have hundreds of questions, but the day you don't turn up, I'm sure we'll have hundreds of questions. So thank you.
I'm quite happy there's no questions. Thank you.
Okay, agenda item 9 is the it's Graves Park Children's Ride marketing exercise.
Hi, it's Jo Pearce, Business and Partnerships Service Manager. So I've got a few. We've got Graves Park Children's Rides first. For clarity, this is inflatables. I think children's rides is a little bit misleading. So yeah, pretty straightforward. This is the current arrangement. Tenancy expires on the license. Expires in May 2026. So this decision we're seeking is just to go out to the market on a longer term basis as well, just to try and minimise the amount of times we're coming and to give a business a bit of a longer business opportunity. So seeking a decision for to go out to the market for a 5-year licence for that operator.
Members have any questions? No.
Okay, there you go.
Note the contents of the report. Secondly, consider whether approving the commencement of a marketing exercise for a new children's ride operator is in the best interest of the Graves Park charity. Thirdly, subject to being satisfied it is in the best interest of the Graves Park charity, approve the commencement of a marketing exercise for a new children's rides operator within Graves Park. And finally, note that a further report will be brought to this committee following the marketing process, seeking approval to enter into new licence agreement with the recommended operator effective from the 2nd of May 2026. Is that agreed? Yep, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Along a similar theme, item 10 is the Hillsborough Park Children's Rides marketing exercise.
Yeah, okay, so very similar to the last one, apart from this one expires April 2026. So again, we're seeking approval to go out to the market, again on a 5-year licence, so that we can give the business a longer period of time to be able to run that operation and to not have to keep coming back and doing this every time. Thank you.
Thank you. Are members happy with that? Okay, that is agreed unanimously. The recommendations are, I should have read them out first really, before we agreed them. They're the same as the last one in effect, but for Hillsborough Park. So note the contents of the report. Consider whether approving the commencement of a marketing exercise for the new charity rides operator is in the best interest of Hillsborough Park charity. Subject to being satisfied it is in the best interest of the Hillsborough Park charity, approve the commencement of a marketing exercise for a new children's rides operator within Hillsborough Park. And finally, note that a further report will be brought to the committee following the marketing process, seeking approval to enter a new licence agreement with the recommended operator effective from the 29th of April 2026. I think we've agreed it, so it's fine. Thank you. Item 11 is the proposed lease to nursery at First Start Centre, Firth Park.
Yeah, I'll present this one. Unfortunately, no one's here from Property Services, so we'll cover this one. So, yeah, this is Firth Park Nursery. It's Cascade Academy Trust, also known as Hucklow Nursery locally. It's been on a tenancy at will since 2016. So the arrangement needs to be formalised via a commercial lease. Property Services have led that negotiation and that's been agreed. I won't go into the detail because that's in the closed section within the appendix, which I'm assuming you've all seen. A rent has been agreed, as has a apportioned service charge because the building is shared with other tenants, so that's been calculated on an appropriate percentage basis of the footprint of the building. So the recommendation is to grant that lease to the Cascade Multi-Academy Trust, based on the content within the surveyor's report and the detailed in the closed appendix. So we're just asking for approval for formalising that arrangement. Thank you.
Any questions from members? Fran.
Thank you, and it's going to feel as if I'm only interested in Firth Park in my questions today, I'm afraid, but that's partly because there's lots of Firth Park items on the agenda, as well as because it's the ward I represent. Not against this proposal at all. I think it'd actually be hugely disruptive to try and change the nursery provider or anything like that at this point, but it's just really a question about the process. Later on in this meeting, we're going to be looking at the marketing of the cafe. And I know we've been back and forth with this one a little bit about exactly what process we follow. When we're talking about the cafe, we've said it's good practice to go out to the market every so often. So I suppose I just want to be really clear. As I say, I would not want the disruption of changing the provider or anything at this point, but just want to be really clear under which circumstances we go, actually we need to go out to market and test what's, test what the grams are, and when we don't. Thank you.
Yeah, so that is the question for the surveyor, who's obviously not here, or Property Services. So we'll have to take that back and come back to you, because we didn't cover that, I don't think, in the pre-agenda yesterday. Yeah.
Is there any other questions or queries? I mean, I think this has been going on for some time. I think that where we've ended up works well for the council, and I think it works well for the people running it. It works. Thank you, Ruth. I stand corrected. Yes, but that's fine.
Council as trustee.
Absolutely. You see, that's what I meant. Yeah, that's what I meant. Okay. In that case, we'll go to the recommendations. The Charity Trustee Subcommittee is recommended to note the contents of the report, consider whether granting a lease to Cascade Multi-Academy Trust is in the best interests of the Firth Park charity, subject to it being in the best interest of the Firth Park charity, approve the lease proposal based on the terms set out in the closed appendices, and authorise the Head of Property Services and the Head of Legal Services to complete the legal documentation. Is that agreed? Okay, that is unanimous. Item 12, perhaps we should have actually held this meeting in Firth Park, at the cafe maybe. Offered to market cafe at Firth Park. I assume this is you again, Jo?
It is me again. Yeah, and this is one of the few remaining cafes in Parks that hasn't been out to the market for quite a number of years. So it's a really thriving cafe in the heart of Firth Park as a community and within the park of Firth Park. So it's been on a arrangement with the existing operator for since 2011. Much loved cafe, and we want to see provision within Firth Park continue. That said, it's very appropriate that having not gone out to the market in that time, now that the existing tenancy at will has expired in 2024, we ought to go back out to the market to ensure we're getting the best value in terms of the charity. So we propose, the decision we're asking for is to go out to the market. That will follow a property process, will be put on Rightmove as an opportunity and shared kind of across Sheffield to see if there is interest in that, framed very much in the way that we want to see a thriving community cafe within Firth Park, benefiting local people at an appropriate, affordable pricing as it is currently, and something that really enhances the green space, and also something that generates income for Firth Park charity.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Fran.
Thank you. I cannot let the subject of Firth Park, the cafe in Firth Park go by without commenting on what a fantastic operation it is, first of all, and that's not just for the provision of wonderful food, etc., but it really is a fantastic social space, and I know that is kind of built into the marketing exercise around here, but that does feel really important. You know, the love and attention that people get, and especially perhaps older and more isolated people who use a cafe, really is, it's amazing, and that's really important, I think, to the community. And I suppose I'm just referring back to my previous question. You have explained it. I think when we originally were looking at putting this out to market, it was the intention of the current cafe person who currently operates the cafe to retire. That may not be the case now, and so there's a little bit of anxiety with me, if I'm honest, around this process. And I certainly wouldn't want the current operator to feel that this is any attempt to push out. And so I really want to reiterate how valuable that service is in Firth Park at the moment, and I thank you for referring to it in the course of your introduction there. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree with all of that, and just you know, lots of operators have gone through this who've managed beautiful park setting cafes, and so yeah, communication is really important. Make sure that current operator is made aware of the process when that opportunity to apply is there. And how that we frame the process ensures that community warmth and people being able to sit there and get a cup of tea and maybe sit for a few hours is perfectly acceptable. You know, it's not about we need to sell loads and loads and loads of coffee. So we'll make sure that that is written in. We know what that cafe does and what's important. So yes, thank you for your comments. We totally agree.
Okay, yeah, and just to reiterate, I think it's the responsibility of this subcommittee, that when we do get the recommendations, that we do look beyond just the hard numbers and see how it reflects on the objectives of the charity. Trustee, you know.
But just to add, it's not been marketing since 2011, and no other sites are in that position, you know, Park Cafe sites, so it wouldn't be appropriate to not market it. That wouldn't also be fair to other, but yeah, no, just to kind of reiterate that point.
Okay, on that basis, we have the recommendation, which the charity subcommittee is recommended to authorise the head of property services to offer the cafe to the market on a leasehold basis and to report back to committee following this exercise to decide whether any offers received are in the best interest of the Firth Park charity. Is that agreed? Yeah, that's unanimous.
I want to ask a question that's kind of related. Is that okay? All the cafes you saying go out to tender on a you know, rotating basis. Does that include the cafes in Hillsborough Park?
Different.
That's right.
Or do you want me or?
Well, so I think it's probably important to say that the cafe up near Age UK is part of Age UK's remit, so that is not one that we market. It's one that it forms part of their boundary. So they may go out to the market at the end of the current operator's tenure. They may not. And then obviously this second cafe in Hillsborough Park is part of the activity hub, so it went out to market as part of the hub, not as a separate cafe opportunity. So the two in Hillsborough are actually slightly different. They've both undergone processes, but not the same processes as this for various reasons.
Not as like standalone cafes.
Yeah.
Valid question. Okay, item 13 then is the Firth Park playground improvements.
This one's actually me to give you a break from Joe, actually. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself earlier. I'm Ruth Bell, I'm Head of Parks and Countryside. So we are still on Firth Park. This is the final Firth Park report. So this report is a bit of an unusual one. We haven't brought anything like this to committee before. It is something that we might be able to do more of as we have improvement projects and bring income into sites in this sense. But this report is asking the committee to approve the acceptance of a £100,000 grant from the FCC Environmental Community Fund. The funding is to contribute to a larger £389,000 playground improvement project within Firth Park, which is looking at the facilities for children and young people and improving accessibility within that site. The project has been shaped through community consultation, and it does support the charitable objective of providing recreational facilities that improve quality of life for local residents. The improvement project is being managed through the council's capital process. I think it's really important to say that no charity funds are being used to improve the playground. The funding is coming from a variety of other places, including local SIL and I think public health money, as well as this pot of money and a smaller pot of money which has been successfully applied for. And really importantly, any financial risk around this funding pot and any clawback would fall to Sheffield City Council and not the charity. So the risk is hopefully very minimal.
It's not a question at all. I don't need to ask a question about this other than to say to the committee, please accept this funding. It's a project that we've been working on. I've got to thank the Friends of Firth Park who've really contributed to supporting the design of the new playground. It's lovely to mention as well, a lot of the equipment will be wheelchair accessible and is really designed about the needs of people with disabilities, and I think it'll be a fantastic new asset in the park. I know we had a bit of a conversation yesterday about whether it's really necessary to bring acceptance of funds like this to committee, so I don't know if it's just worth commenting on that, but please accept. Thank you.
I'm happy to comment on that. Yes, actually, on reflection, what we would do next time is bring a report setting out what a project might look like and seek approval to proceed with the project, check that the charity does want X site, X playground, X whatever to be improved within the site. I'm prepared to bet that the answer to that would be a universal yes, regardless of the charity, but also check at that stage whether we can have approval to approach funding pots and apply for funding and accept it if we're successful, so get almost a blanket improvement for that project on that site rather than come in. Yes, sorry. We've mentioned in the financial item that we are going to be looking at sites having an annual, biannual or 3-yearly improvement sort of business plan that would include some financial information. This sort of thing could form part of that as well. There are aspirations to improve X. We may bring a future report on it, or actually are you happy to approve that we do the necessary to improve that playground, that bit of ground or whatever it is?
Okay, thank you. Any other member questions or comments? Nope. Okay, in that case, we'll go to the recommendation, which is that the Charity Trustee Subcommittee is recommended to A, note the content of the report, and B, approve the acceptance of £100,000 in grant funding from FCC, Environmental, and the delivery of the works to improve the facilities. Is that agreed? Okay, that is unanimous as well. Thank you. Checking our final item today is item 14. We're moving across the city now to Hillsborough. Is it a coincidence you're here today, Christy? But Hillsborough Park, proposal to grant a licence to Hillsborough Walled Gardeners.
Yeah, so I'll present that one. So this is a request supported by Parks and Countryside from the Hillsborough Walled Gardeners who work and maintain and support the wonderful gardens at the top of Hillsborough Park and have done for many years. They're wanting to apply for a community Green Flag Award And in order to do so, they required landlord consent or a formal arrangement and kind of verification that they are a formal constituted group, and that we've kind of endorsed that. So they're seeking a formal arrangement. There has been a type of licence arrangement in place in the past, but that's not really fit for purpose for what they need and what we would look to provide. So as you've seen in the closed appendix, the heads of terms have been drafted that meets both their needs and what we would expect for the charity provision, and that will enable them to apply for the Community Green Flag Award. Just to note, there's been an amendment to the recommendation. There was just a little bit of the wording just needed to be re-emphasised. There was a bit more emphasis on the event side, which is quite secondary. It's really about the maintenance and management, the maintenance and support and carrying out the activity within the walled gardens. They do run a couple of events a year that they would seek approval and we would support. But the events is secondary. It's getting the licence to be able to do the maintenance work that's the key aspect. So there's just that amendment that came circulated, as well as the updated title plan, because the Hillsborough Wall Garden has just fed back that the line wasn't entirely accurate. So we've updated the plan, that's been shared. So yeah, thank you.
Would you like to make a comment, Christine?
I have to, don't I? Yeah, obviously, I support this because I think they do some excellent work. I do have a query. When you say the maintenance, you really mean just like the flowering shrubs and things? Because I know that there is some structural work that probably needs doing, and they won't be responsible for that. That will still be Parks will do most of the big structural work, and they'll do the... Yeah, okay.
Yeah, very much so. So after this, subject to approval, they would continue to work with Andy Phillips, the area manager on site, to agree what that management plan would look like. What they're insured to do wouldn't be taking on big structural things, what would be our remit and what would be their remit, and what, they would want to do within that space and what we would. So, yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions? No, I mean, I'd just add that, they, as I understand it, they were at one stage friends of Hillsborough Park, and we've had our differences, but I think the work they do in the wall garden is absolutely fantastic. It's a hidden gem for the city. It really is worth, if you haven't seen it for a while, it's well worth going over there. Also, the cafe at the top of the hill, they get some fantastic food there as well, so it's almost a day out. Well, not quite. But then you can walk down the hill and go and play tennis or golf or whatever. So it is a day out. No, it's good. Okay, then in terms of the recommendations, firstly, note the content of the report. Secondly, and this is the amended one, so the revised text is, consider whether approving a licence for Hillsborough Wall Gardeners to maintain and improve the wall garden and to hold a small number of community events that will support this group's aspirations to secure a Community Green Flag Award is in the best interests of the Hillsborough Park charity. Thirdly, subject to being satisfied that it is in the best interest of the Hillsborough Park charity, approve the granting of a licence for Hillsborough Wall Gardeners for use of the wall garden, and finally to authorise the Head of Property Services to finalise a licence. Is that agreed? Yep, that's unanimous as well. That concludes our business. Thank you very much. As always, thank you to the officers for preparing all the papers. Thank you.
Thank you.